Hey guys, and welcome to my new YouTube channel. This is going to be all focused entirely around Power Rangers lore and informing you about all these different characters I'll be talking about. Now, the first character we're going to talk about is Zen Aku from the Wild Force Power Rangers series. That was the 10th installation of the 10th installation of the Power Rangers series. So, Zen Aku. In Japanese, his name means good/evil. You can basically get that part really easily. You know, the word Zen is good, and Aku is evil. If you watch Samurai Jack, you know Aku. That's where they got the name. Not from Aku, but evil. So, that is just one of the characters' bios. He is over at least 3,000 years old. That is the minimum number we know that he is. Maximum, we have no idea how old he is because his story starts with him sealed inside of a mask. Found 3,000 years ago by Merrick, one of the Wild Force Rangers, who would put it on to help defeat Master Org. He's a very interesting character because there's more to him because he was sealed away already inside of a tomb that was considered legend by the Rangers of that time period. So, let's go back. We're going to talk to him a little bit quickly about him, his past, and we'll go into his weapons, and then we'll go forward and talk more about the interesting facts that he has going on for him. So let's go to his past. So as I said, 3,000 years ago, he appears on the stage. Technically, the kingdom of Animaria is under attack by these race of creatures known as Orgs. Orgs come in three different genres. There is a normal Org that has many horns. More than one horn makes it just a normal Org. An Org is basically like a crossbreed Oni creature that is raising out of the pollution of the time to destroy humanity for whatever purposes. They are just naturally evil, spirited creatures that have no soul. I don't just say they're evil because they have no soul. I say because they have no soul because Cole, the Red Force Power Ranger, basically tries to communicate with one and says he does not feel a soul in this creature as he does with animals or other things. He would actually retract that statement when he would look into the soul of Toxica and say he trusts her. So interesting that some Orgs have souls. I think it has to do with the ranking and horns, that they might have more souls. We'll talk about that a little bit later on when we talk more about his biology and interesting facts about him. So, Zen Aku was already locked away within a wolf-like mask inside this tomb. No one knows much of his origin. That's all we know, that he was locked away. I'm going to infer on the path that someone sealed away. I don't think it was anyone in Animaria. I think it was actually Master Org, in my opinion. He probably saw him as a threat. In the series itself, Master Org, when he first confronts him, and goes, "Do you remember?" And a lot of us are tempted to feel that it was, "Do you remember that you're human?" because it was Merrick Zen Aku who was talking to. I want to say if it's Zen Aku, him asking Zen Aku, "Do you remember who sealed you away?" Because that would be a much more interesting thing than, "Hey, is Merrick still in there?" Which he knows Merrick's still in there because he knows a lot of things. Also, at the time, that was not the Master Org that he had fought. Zen Aku had fought 3,000 years ago. It was the human form Zen Aku. The Master Org at this time period is all human, who has some of the powers of the Master Org, who is laid dormant because he ingested the seeds of Master Org, essentially. So that'd be I think it was fully Master Org who sent him in there, locked him in there, because he was a threat. Maybe he was a prophecy, because for some unknown reason, he was sealed away, and then Merrick basically sees Animus, the god of all the Wild Zords of that series, be destroyed single-handedly by Master Org. Realizes there's all lost. Animaria rises up from the land and puts Princess Shayla to sleep to protect the world later on. To basically sleep until she's needed, because they think all humanity is lost. He goes, finds the mask, breaks out of the tomb, puts it on, and makes basically a deal with Zen Aku to defeat Master Org. And apparently pretty handily defeats him, no problem at all with the Predazords. That's probably a good reason why, if I think a candidate-wise, Master Org is the one who sealed him away in the first place, and not any other humans, because the writing on there was very orcish. They sealed him away pretty well, and that's just my opinion on that. So, it could have been other humans. We don't know. It's not told. It's probably not even talked about in the lore-wise. It would be interesting if they touched it up in the comics, but we don't know what's going to happen with that. So, we'll continue on from there. Zen Aku is basically released in 3,000 years later after being sealed away by his fellow companions, the ancient warriors of the time, because Merrick / Zen Aku is fully filled up with the rage and destruction of the orcs, half of him, and he goes crazy. They seal him away and is silent in that tomb for 3,000 years until Nazor, a general org, who has more, he has a single horn sticking out of his head. As I said before, orgs have a lot of horns. Okay, so Duke orgs and general orgs have a single horn. It doesn't have to be out of their head. There has been different versions, but most of them have right out of their head, such as Nazor, Toxica, and I do believe a lot of the other ones too. Gendrax does too. Master Org also in the series, he has a single horn out of his head. So basically think of them as unicorns. They are higher ranking because they have less horns, and they actually insult, you hear Toxica insult other lesser orgs for having more horns than them. Nazor is very interesting because he's more of a ear-themed general org. Most of the other orgs are just straight out of pollution, whether it be like a vacuum cleaner just blowing out dust, or a motorcycle that's just ramped up and just blowing out more pollution. So there's that interesting little side effect there. But, so Nazor revives him to unleash Zen Aku upon the new Rangers, not really messing with his memories at all. And I think 3,000 years locked away has really done a number on Merrick / Zen Aku. Their memories have probably merged and collided, and just the loneliness of time and being left there. He sees another org and goes, oh, this is my brethren, and so he goes, I'll defeat the Rangers, but he has his own honor code. He goes and fights the Rangers, destroys them pretty handily. The first fighting instance, the Rangers are kind of caught off guard because they've been on a roll for a long time. And for about 7 episodes, he's just hammering them piece by piece, fist by fist, easily defeating them. Just when they go, well, we've got Zords. He comes up with his own Zords and destroys them pretty handily again. Master Orc approaches him and goes, do you remember? And Zen Aku just goes, I don't know who the hell you are, old man, and just continues going. And Master Orc goes like, oh, so he doesn't remember. And which makes you, was he talking to Merrick or Zen Aku? Probably for the series itself, looking on, you're probably going, he doesn't remember that Zen Aku was the one who destroyed him, and that he is Merrick in reality. But if you look at the long run and you try to figure out, it might be another question. It's like, hey, who is who? Does he know that he was sealed away in the first place by Zen Aku? Well, I don't know. Alright, Zen Aku is sealed away by Master Org. So, continuing forward, you start to see at the 7 episodes after he defeats the Rangers start to get worried and start looking for information about him. Alyssa goes off with Cole, and they split up, and she is ambushed by Toxica and Gendrax. Oh, yeah, Gendrax. She is knocked down, rolled down the hill, and basically knocked unconscious, and hurts herself in some fashion, instead of going to finish her off, because Alyssa insults Toxica. Toxica just takes that as a victory, and she leaves. She's unconscious when Zen Aku finds her. He waves his flute dagger, which is basically a callback to the Green Ranger's Flute Ranger from like Tommy Oliver, and finds the source of her pain, cuts up his own clothing, wraps up a bandage, and then looks her over and says she's fine, turns around and leaves. So he has a sense of honor immediately. Is that Zen Aku or is that Merrick? It's mainly hinting at Merrick in this instance, but as we find out later, it's kind of a mixture of both of them. Or maybe it's more Merrick that has just rubbed off on Zen Aku. We don't know. We know they have an impact on both of their lives as it goes on, but we'll talk about that more as we go on. So, the Rangers fight again, they lose again, and eventually as time goes on, they keep clashing. They find out more. Princess Shayla starts to remember that maybe this is something else is going on here. He said he has a song that they hear play, and it's a song that she sang with somebody else, and that song was, of course, Merrick, one of her major love interests for the series, someone she thought died 3,000 years ago. Remember, she fell asleep before she figured out what happened to him. She starts to piece together, maybe he is him, and that's what happens there. So, eventually, she gets kidnapped by Zen Aku, after he has a lot of conflict inside of him. Nazor puts something in his head to make him go crazy, and in some instances, he basically grabs her and is about to like destroy her, and then when Animus appears out of nowhere in a basically Force-like vision and goes, remember, and it drives, he's remember what, and then they defeat him, send him back, destroys the insect in his head, and eventually he is released. The mask and Merrick are separated. You also learn about this time that Zen Aku has a connection to a stray dog, and they find out that I believe it is on, when there is no moon in the sky, Zen Aku is basically weakened, and he's retreated back to his human form, which is Merrick, but Merrick has no memories of anything. It's just basically just a normal human with no memories, and the like, and he has connection. They kind of piece that together, that is Merrick going on. When he is full moon, he is at his strongest. So they even have a stronger issue there. So, when they become separated, we think that is the seventh episode of the saga, and we think that is the ending of us meeting Merrick. Later on in the episode titled Unfinished Business, he returns once more, basically pointing the dagger at his Crescent Blade, coming up behind him, but announcing his presence to Merrick after Merrick Jedi senses him with some wind force powers, and says, and Merrick basically says, I will not join you. There's a big long fight between them where basically Zen Aku says, we are destined to go back together, you shouldn't abandon me, you're a traitor, da-da-da-da. What is he saying he's a traitor of? Is he a traitor of their deal? We don't exactly know what he means by that, but basically what we can tell is Zen Aku is kind of lonely. Basically, he is just full-on confused of what's going on there. He just keeps trying to like fight off. They have a full episode where they keep fighting each other, to the point where actually it takes the entire team, all 6 Rangers, to apparently destroy him after learning a new move and the like. Basically it breaks Zen Aku's horn clean off, which is the only way to for sure kill an orc, as we know. And he's apparently dead there. However, it is revealed after the series ends that basically Merrick it shows that an epilogue where Merrick's going to go travel the world, the other Rangers do their own thing, and as Merrick goes to leave to travel the world, Zen Aku mysteriously returns. Supposedly, though, he was supposed to have his horn removed, like he's free of that curse, but in the series ending, he still has his horn, and Zen Aku basically goes to Merrick and goes like, can I join you? We can learn more about each other, and lone wolves are looking for redemption. basically it's basically fully played out that he's a redeeming character and that he's more of an anti-hero than he is a villain. He has a whole different way of doing things, but will be interesting for the series. We never see him again beyond that point. So apparently we just know that Merrick and him go off, and that's it. So let's talk about some of his powers and abilities. We know he is super strong. He can basically hold a person like Darth Vader single-handedly, drag him with one hand, even toss them very far. He's able to throw Danny back into a rock hard enough to knock him out and demorph him as well. Not like even like, so most of the other attacks when you have is like they have a big seismic attack, and it basically, that's the only time they take full force of the hit, causes them to demorph. Apparently he just has to use his whole arm to throw him against the rock to basically demorph him. He's even strong enough to when he's in giant size to basically just throw back, catch and throw back a full Zord with no problems whatsoever. He's extremely thick-skinned and armored. Basically, he can survive the Lunar Break finisher without a scratch. The Lunar Break finisher is basically Merrick's final pool table attack. He's able to take on basically anything. He's able to come back, apparently. But he is defeated. There is that. Hand-to-hand combat-wise, he is very, very skilled in hand-to-hand combat and his swordsman's skills. Basically, defeating the Rangers, it takes the entire Ranger force to actually take him down with even the help of a god. He's very fast and very, very strong combined. So that takes there. He's able to jump really high. And again, he gets empowered further when he behaves the full phase of the moon. Virtually unstoppable. He's like the Juggernaut. So, in the series, Toxica's beans are what makes everything grow. He is one that can make him grow himself, not needing Toxica's beans. Very interesting fact. Like there, makes me think he's on par with Master Org, because Master Org doesn't need Toxica's beans either. So I think if he's above the other Duke Orgs of Toxica and stuff like that, even Nazor, all them, he's like, I think he's up to par where he's a rival directly for Master Org, especially since he can keep coming back like Master Org can, apparently. And quicker. His weapons that he uses, the Flute Blade. As we've seen, he basically can use it as a flute, much like the Dragon Dagger is, and he can also use it as a blade. It is shaped like a, basically a kukri in many ways. He can use it to quick strike opponents and the like, but it is not his major weapon. It is basically only used when he's going to play his little dagger or where the opponent's just up close and he's striking. His primary weapon is his Crescent Blade, a large double-sided blade. It has a crescent-like shape to it. His signature attack is Crescent Wave. It appears as a yellow wave that flings at his enemies enough force to wipe out all 6 Rangers with the Crescent Wave. Crescent Blade, Crescent Wave. This is he's basically his Pokemon at that point. So he does that and is able to take on many of the Rangers. He has his own Zords, which he can summon anytime. The Alligator, the Wolf, and the Hammerhead Shark. He's able to grab other crystal things and basically freeze them, and take them under possession. I don't even know. None of the other orgs have been able to do that. They didn't even attempt to like steal the gems and like freeze them. Like he turned them to petrify them to complete stone, which is very interesting. His weaknesses wise, he has several actually. His horn, which is all, he has a singular horn, so all his power, his life, everything's connected to his horn. If he loses that, he's dead. Except for he's not, because he comes back. He suffers from the touch of sacred water of the Temple of Animaria. Basically, clean water will hurt him, of that type of clean water. Normal water doesn't affect him, because I think what they're implying is basically normal water of the earth is inherently polluted in some fashion. This sacred water that is shooting from the fountain can hurt him, and all orcs. As I said earlier, the new moon, he loses all abilities and reverts back to human form. But because Merrick and him separated, he might have that weakness anymore. So think of that Merrick / Zen Aku merged together thing. He might not have that anymore, but he definitely is still as powerful in the full moon. So keep that in mind there. So we're gonna go into some interesting facts about him now. So he may or may not have night vision. It's not really clear, because some of the episodes where he shows up at night, his eyes glow, and he's able to fight at night with ease, while the Rangers can't see where he's coming from, and he just moves so quickly. We don't know for certain. It's never confirmed or said, but it's basically implied. So basically, the flute was basically a hint early in the series that basically this is a redeemable character, but we weren't sure if it was for Merrick or not. Apparently, it was the flute was mainly used for to show that Zen Aku was the redeeming character, not Merrick. Merrick was basically held against his will as a hostage the entire time while Zen Aku used him. So basically, he can break free, control the Rangers and allies. He is a eventual ally, as later seen in the series, but it takes a lot to actually get to him. He and Korag from Mystic Force are very similar in some instances. They have a wolf motif, they have both animal-based swords, and can grow just a giant size on their own. And both have good souls inside of them buried deep. He's one of the 3 only orgs in the series to be able to grow a giant size, I said earlier, without the help of magic seeds. This is Master Org and Retnax. If you don't know who Retnax is, he is another general org, as I do believe. Yes, he's another general org. He is the leader of Master Org's guard, his personal bodyguard. Basically, he is just apparently a big guy who is the bodyguard guy. He's able to join his own rise up. We don't know if any of the other orgs could, general orgs could do it. They never really seem to go to that big form necessarily, but we do know that basically those 3 were confirmed in the series to be able to do so. So he actually had 2 different voice actors for Zen Aku. We had Dan Warren for the first 3 appearances, and for some unknown reasons, he was later replaced by Lex Lang for the last 5 appearances. Why? We don't have no idea whatsoever. It might have just been a conflict, but it was never specified why. And if it was a true conflict with filming, we have no idea. It should have been mentioned somewhere. He is one of the only 3 orgs to survive the final of the series, along with Jindrax and Toxica. It's still unclear how he survived, but he did survive. It is known how those two do have survived as well, because they are seen skipping away, happy as ever to have survived, and that they are currently relatively frenemies with the Rangers. They also appear to be the only 3 with souls in some way. Cole says basically that Toxica has a soul. Jindrax shows actual care and love for Toxica, which is not seen in all the other orgs. And Zen Aku is deeply caring, though obsessively so, of Merrick. So there is that. But it might be for selfish reasons. Other than that, it doesn't seem too selfish. He has very interesting feelings towards Merrick because he basically is a lone wolf, and I think he was very lonely, and for 3,000 years he was found the only person that he could actually connect to in that instance. So there is that going on. That is Zen Aku basically written down. He is still out there with Merrick, traveling the world until at some point they give up and Merrick leaves him, or Zen Aku decides, I've done what I want to and I've learned what I need to, and outlive them all, because Zen Aku has apparently regenerative abilities of Master Orc that are far greater and far more superior in many ways. So we're going to end it there. This is going to be the first episode of an entire series. We're not going to just start with Wild Force. We're going to continue on, press on random characters that are very interesting in my opinion. We'll probably do at least every 1 to 2 weeks, put up an episode. I have to do a lot of research, check this whole thing out, and make sure it's up to date. I even watch the series again just to confirm I missed anything at all. Please comment, subscribe below, Give me a like if you like the video. Give me any comments, even if it's negative or positive. I just need to know. It's my first video. Gotta put it out there, guys. Thank you very much. You have a good one.